What's going on, everyone? So yesterday, the Phoenix Suns fired Frank Vogel. And it's rough for Frank Vogel, right? I mean, he's been fired twice in the last 2 years. Phoenix Suns are an absolute mess. Look, talked about it when they traded for Bradley Beal. What did I say for those that were around at that time? People were ready to, it's over, just give them the championship now. Let's just fast forward to the finals. No one's beaten Phoenix. And what did I keep saying? Phoenix is not a good basketball team. Right? They're basically just names on the back of the jersey. You went and traded for 3 guys that made 0 sense putting together. Right? You got 2 guys that are essentially the same player, play the same position, or similar sizes, right? You got to put one of them at the point guard, and it never was going to work. And I still don't see it working, right? Firing Frank Vogel, fine, but what coach is going to come in and change the fate of the Phoenix Suns? I think ultimately what they're going to realize is that they're going to have to trade Devin Booker or Kevin Durant. And there's already kind of talks about Devin Booker potentially being on his way out. That he may be open to a potential trade, that Phoenix isn't really married to him and they'd be open to potentially trading him. We'll see, right? It's all kind of talks, all kind of rumors. I've seen people throw out Devin Booker, what about the Lakers? He's not going to Lakers, right? Would he want to go to Lakers? Possibly. But 1, Phoenix isn't trading him to the Lakers. And 2, Lakers just don't have enough. They have enough assets to get a star, but the pool is limited for the type of star. That's why you hear names like Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell even. If it's primarily because the thought is that Donovan Mitchell wants to go to the Lakers, that it's basically the Knicks or the Lakers. So, but if a guy like Devin Booker became available, you have teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, even San Antonio, the Knicks, that could all easily outbid us as far as draft compensation, things like that go to help the Phoenix Suns. So I wouldn't count on something like that. But as far as the coaching standpoint with Frank Vogel, look, even when the Lakers fired Frank Vogel, I said, hey, look, I'm okay with it. It's fine. Frank Vogel's a good coach, but I don't think he's insanely good, right? I feel at times people kind of overhype him, right? He needs a very specific team. And that was another thing with Phoenix that I talked about, right? Is Frank Vogel just didn't seem like the right coach for Phoenix. It was kind of he likes a little more traditional, right? He likes the bigs, right? If he was the head coach of Minnesota, I think he'd be killing it. I think people would be like, man, Frank Vogel is this great coach. He's not this blend and kind of be creative type coach. He's very he has a specific set that he's good at. And as long as he has the pieces around him, he can lead you to a championship, right? But it's not a coincidence with the Lakers that after Jason Kidd left, everything started to go downhill. And the reason Frank Vogel just got fired is for a lot of the same reasons the Lakers fired him. Losing the confidence of key players, right? You heard the report, Kevin Durant is not happy with, his role on the offense and stuff, right? Because he's more of a defensive guy. That's what Frank Vogel is. And he's very passive. He's not really confrontational. He likes to avoid it, right? When he was our head coach with the Lakers, Jason Kidd was that guy. Jason Kidd was the guy that would call out LeBron, that was well-respected, that had no issues kind of getting into people's faces and letting them know hey, you need to get yourself together type thing, right? And Jason Kidd leaves, and then it's just you hear all the reports, he's losing the locker room, Russell Westbrook, him and Russell Westbrook bumping heads, Russell Westbrook's upset that he's not calling out LeBron, calling out Anthony Davis, but calling him out, you just heard all this running narrative, and then you fast forward to the Phoenix Suns, and it's the same type of narrative, right? It's the same type of story, and it's just here we go. I see people throwing out the idea of Frank Vogel. I stay away from that. I just, 1, I don't see the Lakers going back to that. 2, I don't know why Frank Vogel would go back to the Lakers. And 3, again, I don't think for this team, I don't think he's the proper coach, right? LeBron's only older. Is he going to all of a sudden respect Frank Vogel more than he did previously, right? I just think that relationship is kind of spoiled. It's soured. You look to go in another direction. But with Phoenix now, causes a little bit of trouble, causes a little bit of problems, right? Because now you have another team and another organization that is going to be vying for the free agency pool as far as coaches go. And there's not really a lot that you're man, that's the guy, right? So there's already reports that Mike Budenholzer is expected to sign. I guess he's the top candidate for the Phoenix Suns. There was even reports that Mike Budenholzer's already putting a coaching staff together to try to get to the Phoenix Suns, which, if that's the case, now you're talking a very limited type pool, because he may end up taking some of the guys that are available with him to be part of his coaching staff. So that'll be kind of interesting. I could also see Darvin Ham going to Phoenix, right? Like, it's a Budenholzer guy. Just something that popped in my mind when I heard the Mike Budenholzer thing. Now, look, I have talked about, I'm okay. Like, if Mike Budenholzer goes and signs with Phoenix, good. To me, the Lakers might save themselves in that regard, because he is a guy that I could see them maybe potentially signing. And I'm not a huge fan of Mike Budenholzer. Like, I don't think he's a bad coach by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not. I just think it's kind of like an slightly upgraded version of Darvin Ham. But I think a lot of the same issues would still be ahead. And I just think that that's not the best approach. I think we need to get somebody that can challenge LeBron and Anthony Davis, that can kind of keep ducks in a row, can manage, right? That's kind of why, like, if we're going for a guy with some experience, like a Kenny Atkinson, I think makes a lot of sense for the Lakers. There's talks about, Micah from the Minnesota Timberwolves, Adelman from the Denver Nuggets. Either of those guys. Like, problem I have with that is they both have never had like head coaching experience. They're both assistants. But that's the issue in general, right? Like, you're either going for a head coach that doesn't have a job and hasn't had a job for a reason, and there's, each one kind of has its own things and has its own flaws, or you're taking a flyer on an assistant head coach hoping that they can be great, or it's JJ Redick, who has no head coaching experience or any coaching experience, but you're hoping that he, with his mind and combination with LeBron, can kind of work it together. And look, I've talked about, if you're trying to get a guy that's long-term and you're trying to get a guy that is has the best upside, then I think you kind of lean towards like a JJ Redick, right? Because one good thing about having a guy that's not and has never been a head coach is they're not stuck in their ways. That's a problem that a lot of head coaches have, is they kind of are stuck in their ways and they're not good at deviating away from what they've been taught and learned. Just like anything else. Like, a lot of big companies, for example, they actually prefer people that don't have experience, because now they can shape and mold and craft that person to the way that they want them to work, in the way that they want them to operate, right? Where if you have somebody that has, 15 years of experience coming in, they're kind of set in their ways. They kind of think that their way is the best because they've had success and they've worked and they've done these things here and there, right? And you see that a lot with head coaches. Now, again, I know a lot of people don't like the idea of going with the JJ Redick, but it's like, again, how many quality options are there? And now with Phoenix in the mix, it's like, who knows? Again, what if Mike Budenholzer ends up doing something where he signs and he goes and takes like Terry Stotts and Darvin Ham and maybe he steals one of the assistants that we're looking for. And now it's like, there's only like 3 coaches left, right? Like, you only have what's available. So to me, it's kind of like, just take the upside. There's been plenty of coaches, not a lot, but there have been a handful of coaches that have had success year one right out the gate. So I don't know, but the other side of things too is that, like, starting to look at this well and it's starting to dry up, right? Like, Charles Lee just signed with the Charlotte Hornets. Now, Charles Lee, I made a whole video about it. If you're curious, go check that out after this video. But like with Charles Lee, good, right? Like, he's a guy that I didn't want the Lakers to sign. Not because I don't know if he'd do a good job or not, because we don't. But again, another guy that has no head coaching experience, another guy that he's always been an assistant for the last like 10 years or whatever. But primarily to me, the biggest reason I wasn't high on Charles Lee is because of the coaching tree in which he comes from, right? Where you look at a guy like Micah from Minnesota, he comes from a great coaching tree. Did a whole video on him as well. Go check that out. But, you got guys like, obviously, Chris Finch. He comes, Mike Malone. He also comes from Dwayne Casey, right? Like, you look at the coaching tree in which he stems from, it's like, okay, that guy makes a lot of sense, right? Even an Edelman, right? Kenny Atkinson, right? These are guys that come from good coaching trees and have had, multiple coaches that have had success that are all kind of like, hey, like you could see it translating. But then you look at some of these other coaches and it's like, they're from like, Mike Budenholzer's tree or things like that. You're just like, again, we just saw that with Darvin Ham, right? Like, and that was the thing with Charles Lee. It's like you're just Mike Budenholzer tree, and then you got Joe Mazzulla. Joe Mazzulla might be the only coach in the league that's like as bad as Darvin Ham, right? Like he looks good because Boston's so good, right? But like me could probably coach Boston and they still be good. Like there's some teams that are just so good. It's like one of the things that I've talked about with Doc Rivers. Like, what has Doc Rivers ever really done? The only time he's ever won and had success was with a team that, like, my kid could coach. They had Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen, they had Kevin Garnett, they had even guys like, Eddie Howe. Like, they had all these, like, guys that, like, you just need to manage. That's it. Like, you're not really coaching. You're just calling timeouts and, swapping guys and keeping guys fresh. Like, yeah, you're just out there chilling. Like, hey, you need a towel? Here, let me tap you off real quick. Like, it's just, it's not like this, like, complex, like, oh, I gotta scheme, I gotta do all this stuff, we gotta have all this. No, you just let them hoop. They're better than everybody, right? It's like, and that's kind of how I feel like with Boston. It's like, they're better than everybody, right? Like, let them go out there and hoop. But, we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. It's, but Lakers definitely have some now direct competition. And, Phoenix is gonna likely sign somebody. Maybe this will kind of light a fire under the Lakers to kind of expedite and start the process. Because as far as we've heard, at least at the time of recording this video, there hasn't been even any interview process. So, we'll see how it plays out. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Anyone in particular that you want to see the Lakers hire? Are you okay if Mike Budenholzer goes to the Phoenix Suns? What did you think of Phoenix Suns firing Frank Vogel? Would you want Frank Vogel to return? Again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.